How I Became a Ghost, a Choctaw Trail of Tears story by Tingle. Chapter 18, Trail of Tears. My mother held me for the longest time. "Chi pasa liche," she whispered. I think she knew, but I didn't know. How could I? I had not seen a ghost for days, it seemed. I thought they would at least warn me. There was no warning. We were halfway to the council wagon when Joseph held up his hand. "Stop," he said. "Did you hear that?" I shook my head. "There," he said, pointing to a small deer on the other side of the river. He quietly slipped into the water, holding his blowgun high. "Don't wait for me," he said over his shoulder. "I'm going hunting." I watched as Joseph climbed from the river and then disappeared into the woods. I took a few steps, circled a fat tree trunk, and froze in my tracks. I knew something was wrong. I heard leaves flutter above me, and when I looked up, the wolf pounced. He was so big, he knocked me to the ground and jumped on top of me. I tried to fight him off. I grabbed him and shook my head back and forth so he couldn't bite my face. I felt a sharp, cutting pain. He sank his teeth into my neck. The wolf growled and threw his head back, his fangs dripping with blood. My blood. Soon the pain was gone. I closed my eyes. My body shivered and floated in a warm cloud. When I opened them, I was surrounded by so many Choctaws. Every Choctaw I had ever known who had died. They all were there. The men and women sang the Choctaw Friendship Song, a song to welcome me. Young Choctaws waved at me. Each one held something: a blowgun, a boat paddle, a stick ball bat, a cane fishing pole. They wanted me to know that we were still Choctaws, always Choctaws, and that games and hunting and fishing still happen, even in the world of Choctaw ghosts. I felt no ground beneath my feet. I felt lighter than air. I took a step to join the young ones. "No!" A scream pierced the cloud. I was alone again, back in the world of the living. Joseph threw the deer on the ground and ran to help me. It was too late, but he didn't know. The wolf was carrying my body in his teeth. Joseph ran after him, left his feet, and sailed through the air. Before he struck the wolf, he was the panther. I stood in my ghost body and watched them fight. The panther tore into the wolf, slashing him with his claws. The wolf dropped my body and fled into the woods. The panther crouched beside me. He lowered his head and licked the blood from my face. As I watched, the black coat of the panther went away, like dark grass fading into the ground. I saw patches of skin, Joseph's skin, until finally it was only him, staring at my blood-covered body. "Oh, no, no, no," he cried over and over. "Why did you have to go? Not now. We have so much to do. You're my friend. My only friend. And I need you." I felt helpless. I hated seeing Joseph so sad. I closed my eyes and felt the warm shiver. When I opened them, Old Man stood before me. "You need to let him know," he said. "Joseph needs to see you." "How can I do that?" I asked. Old Man said nothing. He smiled and took me by the hand. Old Woman appeared beside him. They led me to Joseph. "Speak to him," Old Man said, "and he will see you." "Joseph," I whispered. My voice sounded like it always did. "I'm still here." Joseph turned his face to me. "I am sorry," he said. I should never have left you. I wish I had never seen that deer." "Joseph, we both knew this was going to happen," I said. "Now that it's over, we can get to work. Naomi needs us." "Oh," he said, "but this will take some getting used to. I've never seen a ghost before." "Just think of me like I think about you," I said. "I know you're there, even though I can't always see you." "I can do that," Joseph said. "But promise me this. If you have to go away, let me know. I don't want the soldiers to capture me, tie me to a tree, and I'm not worried because I know you'll cut me loose. But you can't because you're off in the land of Choctaw ghosts. Can you promise me that won't happen?" "I promise," I said. Joseph was trying his best not to cry. "Isaac, I have to tell your parents that you are dead," he said. "They have to take care of your body." "Oh, this will not be easy." I was thinking of my mother. I followed Joseph back to my family. The snow had melted and the sun shone bright overhead. My family walked in the lead, and right behind them came Gabe and Ruth. Gabe held Nita's body, wrapped in her blanket. Joseph stepped 10 feet in front of them. When my mother saw him, she grabbed my father's arm and pulled him close. "What is it?" my father asked. "Where is Isaac?" Joseph hung his head. I could see he still blamed himself. My mother started crying, a soft, muffled cry that turned the blue and sunny day into one of a quiet morning. "What happened?" Luke asked. "A wolf," Joseph said. He raised his head and looked at my father. I'm sorry. I fought the wolf, but I wasn't quick enough. Isaac is gone." My father pulled both families together, and they sat beneath an old pine tree. He wrapped his arms around my mother and Luke and whispered a Choctaw prayer. They all cried, even Luke. The passing walkers heard my family's sobs. They slowed down, bowed their heads, and said not a word, out of respect for the grieving family. My father finally stood and threw a blanket over his shoulder. "Joseph, take us to his body," he said. For the first time, I realized what a burden I would be for my family. They would never leave my body behind for animals to fight over my bones. Choctaws never leave their family's bones behind. "I am going too," said my mother. "No, please," I thought. I did not want my mother to see what the wolf had done to me. As they neared the river, my father wrapped his arms around her, and they walked so slowly, like a holy parade. Every step drew them closer to a sight that they had hoped to never see. Joseph circled my body and stood facing my parents. He didn't point or say a word. He bowed his head and looked at me, the face and chest and arms that used to be me. My eyes stared at the sky. The blood was dark red and covered the ground around me. I felt a strong urge to end this grieving sadness. I wanted to leap into my body and smile at them, to wipe away the blood and lift my arms. I wanted to stand up and let them know I was okay. Yes, I can do this, I thought. I can float into my body and be with them again. Then I remembered my father's words. "You cannot keep your eyes on the bloody footprints you have left behind you. You must keep your eyes on where you are going." I took a deep breath and watched. My mother took the blanket from my father and laid it on the ground away from the puddle of blood. My father rolled my body inside the blanket, wrapped his arms around me, and lifted me over his shoulder. As Joseph waited in the woods, alone, they returned to the road and began their saddest day yet, carrying my body and walking on the trail of tears.